Hello, my name is Eric Good, and this is the Wounded Healers Network. I want to talk to you guys today a little bit about what we're trying to do um, and how we got started. So, the Wounded Healers started because I had a really good friend that I met years ago uh, when I was actually in jail. I met him, and he was also there, but he started a charity, nonprofit called My Child's Life Matters. His name was Rob Sander, and his nonprofit was started with him and his wife Kathy because they lost their son to uh, in a fentanyl poisoning. And when I met Rob, I was at probably, definitely the lowest point of my life. I was struggling with addiction. I was struggling with all sorts of things, not sure how to feel about myself, not feeling like I deserved to get anywhere. But at the same time, I was starting to get into uh, philosophy, occult knowledge, metaphysics, by way of Aldous Huxley, Seven Bomar, um, Alan Watts, and a bunch of other people, and was starting to open my eyes to see how not only that I was worthy of living a life that could be fulfilled and of wholeness and um, happiness, but also that uh, it wasn't 100% my fault and that there was a way out. Um, Understanding that there are outside influences that impact us throughout our lives, which we all know, that make us who we are. And sometimes we end up falling into addiction and other bad habits because we don't know how to properly cope because of the way that we were brought up, because of the way schooling is, and all of these things. So, when Rob started My Child's Life Matters, one of the goals was to be able to be that voice and light for people, to show them that there is a way out, and to provide them an outline and the tools they needed to rebuild themselves. Um, and so that was about 8 years ago, and Rob did all he could to build up the charity. I volunteered what I could, and continued my knowledge, continued my training, continued my practices, and building who I am today. And throughout that time, Rob always told me there was a place with his nonprofit that once there was a place with the nonprofit, I would be there and we'd begin building what he called the Jedi Temple, which was just an analogy or metaphor for a place where we could take people who are broken down, beaten, stuck in a cycle, and help guide them out. So a few months back, he called me out here to Chicago, which is where we're based, Wheaton area actually, and he had me come out so we could begin building this temple. And under that, I came up with the name the Wounded Healers Network. Now, the Wounded Healer is based on the concept that without doing the work yourself and having been through the struggles and the trials and the tribulations, you can't truly empathize and be the healer that you need to be. Now, that's not saying to force yourself through struggle, but it's also to everyone has to go through the trials of rebuilding themselves, of losing themselves, finding themselves, and figuring out who it is they are as an individual. And a lot of that is based on Carl Jung, individuation, and the wounded healer, um, and figuring out what it is that you need to do to become your true self in your individuality and live to your fullest potential. Now, our goal is to help people find that, help people find their individuality, to not live up to anyone else's expectations, but to live to their own, to live a life in harmony with themselves, with nature, and find a balance in their life. Now, how do we do that? That was the thing that I was always trying to find. And there are a lot of systems out there, philosophies, practices. For instance, like I mentioned, Aldous Huxley. So at first I found myself following Aldous Huxley, not following, but reading a lot of his knowledge on uh, philosophy and metaphysics, and I found myself in the perennial philosophy. And in that novel, um, or I should say, in that book, there is the perennial philosophy basically states that um, to be the enlightened being, find wholeness, balance, whatever you want to call it, to be the sage, the mystic, uh, whatever else, there are three things that every person must have, and that's love without humility, charity, and um, love without attachment, humility, and charity. Those are the three. Now, easier said than done, and that's kind of what the book showed, was that the normal person, the way Aldous Huxley wrote that book, at the end you come to find out that it's actually impossible, is what he comes to, is in order to be that person, there are too many outside influences. Now, I struggled with that for a long time because all these other systems, such as we'll say the chakra system, Kundalini Yoga, um, Christianity, Gnosticism, they all want you to be this pure, centered being, never making any mistakes, flawless, be like Christ, whatever it is. And one of the things you start to realize is that everyone is flawed. Everyone has flaws. Everyone has things that make them their own. And if you were to do that, you'd be getting rid of your own individuality. And although we are all one and we are all part of this source is broken up into a million pieces. And that's why you see so much difference in everything, so much difference in nature, the difference in the way things are shaped, put together, environments, habitats, all of those things, because everything has its own being, its own personality, its own way of doing things. But that doesn't make it any less part of the source. What makes you part of the source is finding that and having it become effortless, having it become just a part of who you are, without thinking. Now, how I got there is through Taoism. Now, I don't subscribe to any specific philosophy, but Taoism always made the most sense to me, in that obviously those qualities that all of the others have are a part of Taoism. Still being humble, charitable, love without attachment, all of those things. But Taoism also is about being yourself. It's about that the Tao can be found in all things once you let go. There's the famous story of the butcher in Chuangzi, where he talks about the butcher who every day he chops meat. And he talks about how at first he had to try to slice the meat. It was forceful. Every day he would come in, he would chop the meat, and he had to slice the meat. He was slicing the meat. And eventually, what it led to was this repetition, this routine, turned into he no longer had to slice the meat just sliced. When he grabbed the knife and he brought it up and it came down, the meat sliced, because it wasn't about thought anymore. It just became about being and doing. And that's what my philosophy and what we are doing is that we're trying to give people away the tools, a toolbox, set of tools that they can use to find who they are and find that individuation and effortless action in doing, not doing, being within themselves in their everyday life. Because you can find peace, harmony in the Tao in your everyday life and whatever you're doing if you allow it to just be and you accept what it is and you stop fighting who you are. And that's what I want to show you, and that's what we're here to do. Now, how do we get there? So I've read a lot of texts. I've read, all the major texts, and I've been studying this stuff for years. And I came to, through all of that, I always came back to the Tao Te Ching, and I would listen to it almost daily. And every morning I would listen to it. You find little verses, and I would do the verse of the day, and just flip to a random page. And one day, this verse clicked to me. Now, this is part of a verse. It's verse 38 in the Tao Te Ching. And it says that when the Tao is lost, there is goodness. When goodness is lost, there is morality. When morality is lost, there is ritual. Ritual is the husk of true faith, the beginning of chaos. Now, that verse stuck out to me because what I saw was a clear descent from this state of wholeness, of nature, of balance, of individuation, all the way down to this state of what is called chaos in the Tao Te Ching, but just being out of balance with yourself, feeling like what you're doing is not who you are, what you want to be doing, and you're constantly in conflict with yourself, fighting yourself, and wanting to change things. So if you take apart that verse, you see if it's a descent, that means it also shows you the ascent, the way back to the top. And so if we start at the bottom, which is ritual, is the husk of true faith, the beginning of chaos. So the beginning of chaos is ritual. Now on the way down, we see Tao, goodness, morality, ritual, chaos. So when we start to try to understand what the Tao is, it turns into goodness. And we start to quantify what it means to be whole. Then we get to morality, which then is the judgment of others, saying what is right or wrong, telling people this is the way to be, this is the way you have to do it. And then that turns into ritual, church, any system that is like, this is the way you need to be, this is how you have to do it, and these are the rites, and these are the passages, and so on and so forth, that you must go through to get your way to be good, right? So then we get into chaos, which is what we see around us. No one can deny that religion and systems have caused so much war because of the belief, and so much conflict because of the beliefs and differences of beliefs, and thinking that we or one system is right or wrong. So once we start to break that and start to realize like, hey, what I'm doing doesn't feel good to me. Something has to change. That's that state of chaos. Or at least that's the awareness of that you're in the chaos state. And so the first step is ritual. It's figuring out. So this is our ascent back up. So ritual is figuring out what can I change in my life to put myself more at peace and more at balance with myself? What am I doing and not doing that I want to be doing or don't want to be doing? So, for instance, maybe it's something like, we'll start small. Maybe it's something like, I need to lose a little weight. So, ritual is just another word for routine. It's figuring out, okay, what can I change about my daily life to achieve the goal of losing weight? It could be something like, and then, it could be something as big as like a drug addiction or porn addiction. And it's figuring out what about my ritual and daily routine can I change to get rid of that addiction and help heal myself and get myself out of this state of chaos. Um, and so that's our first step, is just going through this ritual. And there's no specific ritual, but there's a lot of tools out there of what you can do to get yourself out of this. But what a lot of people don't know are these tools, or they don't have enough in their toolbox that helps them figure out what is the right way for them. So many people want to tell you, this is what you need to do. You need to start doing this. You need to wake up every day at 5 and take a nice bath and blah, 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 blah. You need to wake up, in the morning, meditate, so on and so forth. You need to, whatever it is. So that may have worked for that person, but figuring out what it is that works for you is what's most important. And that's what our goal is to help you figure out you. So what is that first step in ritual that helps me get out of chaos into this state of ritual where I can start to bring myself into harmony? So then, working our way back up, let's go up the next couple steps. So now we have morality. Once you start to incorporate this ritual into your chaos routine, morality on the other side of it is starting to empathize with yourself and others by understanding how you got into that chaos state, because now you're stepping away from it. So morality is the self-reflection, but it's also reflecting and analyzing the external world around you and starting to see all of these things out of chaos, and how stepping into those circles and into those things and starting to subscribe to certain things keeps you into that state of chaos, and how it also is keeping other people into that state of chaos. So you start to understand that this chaos is a part of the programming around us, the psyops. And it could be as big as the way that the media influences all of us, to as small as something you maybe went through as a child or the friends you hung out with, and this programming that was implemented you just because of the circles that you were running in. And so you start to step out of that. You start to see it in others, see it in yourself, and this gives you the open eyes to be able to always understand that ritual will get you out of chaos. So anytime you start to fall back down the ladder, you have the next step up. And so once you start to see this, this is when you step up the next step into goodness, back up the ladder. And goodness is basically the state of where you start to just do what is right for you, for others, for those around you, because it's what feels right and what is right, and you're no longer fighting it. You're no longer choosing to do things that will put you into chaos, which allows you to step into the final step of wholeness, or the Tao, or Christ consciousness, whatever you want to call it. There's no right way to call it. I don't want to subscribe to a specific set of beliefs, but this top of the ladder, or the Tao, or wholeness, is the state of just being. Now you're no longer thinking about it. You're no longer ruminating on it. You're no longer, whatever it is. You might still fall out of pattern every once in a while, but even when you do, You're not holding it against yourself. You're able to just continue to do what needs to be done. You take every moment as it comes, as it is, and as it will be. And this is that final state of wholeness. And this is what we are all trying to obtain. I'm not saying that I'm perfect. I'm not saying that I have that state of wholeness, Tao, whatever it is. There's still things that I struggle with, and everybody struggles. But these steps have allowed me to understand what's happening, what's going on, and to always have a way to help build myself back up, and always have a way to move on to the next moment and take things as they come. There is hope, and our goal is to show people that. And this isn't just for addicts, this isn't just for people struggling. This is for anybody who just wants to find peace within themselves. And our goal and mission is to start an online coaching program where we can help people with this, and we can help provide people tools. It won't all be metaphysics and occult based, because there's people who don't want that, who just want help. And we're not here to make anyone subscribe to any specific set of routine rituals or beliefs or systems. We just want to help people find what it is that works best for them. But we will have tools all the way from just the normal things to things that you can incorporate into your ritual if you're into the metaphysics and the crystals and the sage and all those things, and explaining the steps and how to work through them. Not that these are steps as in like an AA program, complete step 1, complete step 2, but just how to start seeing yourself come out of this state of chaos back into peace and wholeness. And from there, we would love to continue on my friend Rob's mission. Rob ended up passing away a few months ago. He was a great friend of mine, and this was his goal. This was his mission. And this was something that we always talked about and always wanted to do. And I want to make sure, and I'm going to continue what he has instilled in me. And I'm going to continue to help show people the way up. And I'm not going to stop. And our final goal is to build that Jedi Temple, is to have a facility, a nonprofit, that will provide resources and services for people at a discounted or free rate, as far as like Qigong, yoga, workshops, workouts, all sorts of stuff, martial arts, belly dancing, so many things, to help people find themselves, find peace, and have a place to go to get the resources that they need. I can't wait to start this. We're just getting started. We're starting to put content out now. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact us on Instagram, or email us at thewoundedhealers@gmail.com, or thewoundedhealersnetwork@gmail.com. You can also add me on Instagram, Eric Good the Healer, and reach out to me there. We're ready to get started. We're just putting together the final pieces as far as the online program goes, but we're ready, and we are really looking forward to this.